Our Kansas Jayhawks are headed bowling. Not quite as climactic as last year making the college football playoff, but this will do instead. In just moments, we'll find out who we're going to be facing off against here in our bowl game. But first, we've got quite a bit to cover here at Conference Championship Weeks. In today's episode, we're going to go through all the conference championship games across the nation. We will learn which teams will make the college football playoff, and we're also going to go through National Signing Day prior to our bowl game. We've got some fun conference championships on the slate, including in the Big 12, Oklahoma State against Kansas State, the two teams who we played against in the last episode, and both games really exciting. We lost in 4 overtimes to Oklahoma State, and then at home for Senior Day against our rivals, Kansas State, in the Sunflower Showdown. And we won this game in overtime off of a 2-point conversion by running back Savion Morrison. It was a gutsy decision, but one that directly won us the game. As we look at our 3 in-conference losses against Arizona State, missed a chip shot field goal to tie. Against UCF, missed a chip shot field goal to win, lost in double overtime. Against Oklahoma State, lost in quadruple overtime. If any of those 3 games go differently, we are in the conference championship today. And even going back to the non-conference slate, we nearly beat number 1 undefeated Clemson at their house. And then the Fresno State game is maybe the only one where it didn't go up until the very end. Who would have thought the Bulldogs was our worst loss of the year? To think just one of those 3 in-conference losses, if we found a way to win those games, we'd be playing in the Big 12 championship today, facing off against our rivals again for a spot in the college football playoff. But this young team is going to continue to learn to win. We've won 4 of 5. We're playing better. But obviously the playoff is out of the cards. And this is what the current projection looks like. You'll notice that there are no Big 12 teams currently in the playoff. You've got the ACC champ, the Big 10 champ, the SEC champ, and then the 2 highest Group of 5 champions rather than the winner of Kansas State and Oklahoma State. So I think what needs to happen for a Big 12 team to get in is for Kansas State to win and either have Texas State lose their game or have Kansas State jump Texas State, which would require some movement within the rankings. And then if Oklahoma State beats the Wildcats, then there is no chance of a Big 12 team making the playoff. Oklahoma State is not playing for a playoff spot. They are playing for spoiler. Kansas State, meanwhile, not only are they going for a playoff spot, but Avery Johnson is feet away from winning the Heisman Trophy. But he's got Cade Klubnik, Miller Moss, and Jeremy Bernard all on his tail. Those guys will all play today. As for us, we're currently slated to go to the Liberty Bowl against UTSA. We'll see if that changes here in Conference Championship Weekend. We're going to go through all 9 Conference Championship games, starting with the MAC. Akron facing off against Western Michigan here at Ford Field in Detroit. Not many championships are won in this building. That'll change soon, though, and I'm not just talking about the MAC. This game ended up being ugly, but quite competitive, as the Zips end up winning this game 24-21. I guess Western Michigan got intimidated by Akron's mascot, Zippy the Kangaroo, which, to be honest, if I played for Western Michigan, I would probably be intimidated by that thing, too. He is scary. Neither offense was all that effective. Big touchdown run of 62 yards out for Bobby Golden. Looks like he was the best player on the field in this game, the biggest reason why Akron ended up winning. Last year, the Group of 5 representative in the college football playoff came from the American Conference, that being Tulane, who nearly beat Texas in the first round. This year, there will not be a playoff representative from this conference, and USF made sure of it. The Bulls upset UAB, and they do it in somewhat dominant fashion, 42-21. Trace Campbell was all right. Not really the biggest reason why UAB lost, but more so their defense could not stop a fly. Byron Brown, one of the top Group 5 quarterbacks, and a guy who, if he enters the transfer portal, I think big programs would be all over. Helped lead South Florida to the win as we head to the Conference USA game. Liberty, who lost this game last year, facing off against Kennesaw State, and the Flames would make sure to take what is theirs. Quarterback Ryan Berger throws for 5 touchdowns as Liberty takes the win 41-21. Got to shout out Kennesaw State, just their second season in the FBS, making it all the way here to the conference championship already. Davis Bryson doing his best Jameis Winston impression. As for Liberty, remember, they were the highest-ranked Group of 5 team going into conference championship weekend, then trailed 28-3 in the conference championship game to Middle Tennessee State before coming all the way back and still losing. Now for the Mountain West, Air Force faces off against Nevada. I think the Wolfpack actually do have a slight shot to get in. If both Kansas State and Texas State lose, you know, maybe the door is open for them, and they would end up winning this game over the Air Force Falcons. In another ugly one, 17-9. This game was tied at 3 prior to the fourth quarter. Quentin Haynes, another really good Group of 5 quarterback who is still an underclassman, played fairly well for Air Force, even though they only scored 9 points. Nevada's offense wasn't great other than their running back Ashton Hayes, but he was able to lead them to the win. Next up, let's get to the big games. The Big Ten Championship with USC number 3 and the reigning back-to-back national champion Michigan Wolverines sitting at number 4. The biggest takeaway that I took from this game is I have the feeling that these two teams are going to see each other again when it comes to the playoff. Michigan with the win, 24-21. They win the Big Ten Championship. The Wolverines will get a first-round bye in this year's playoff. But again, UCF only dropping to number 5. They will get a home playoff game in the first round, and deservedly so. Miller Moss has had a terrific season this year. The dynamic backfield, though, of Alex Orji and Darius Taylor has been really hard to stop. And again, don't be surprised if these two teams see each other again. They are both legit threats for the national title. Boston College versus Clemson in the ACC title game. Let's see what Boston College is made of. Currently 10-2. They've shown a lot of promise this year. They lost to Clemson earlier in the season, and, well, they are going to lose again. Cade Klubnik was ridiculous in this game, throwing for 5 touchdowns as the Tigers finished 13-0, the only undefeated team left across the nation, and they will be the well-deserved number 1 seed in the college football playoff. They win this game big, 52-17. I will say, though, I don't think you can punish Boston College for losing this game because it was the extra game on their schedule. So I'm hoping somebody won't jump them and take them out of the playoff. As for Clemson, they look unstoppable. Cade Klubnik, with his last hurrah before the Heisman ceremony, played pretty damn well. 445 yards and 5 touchdowns. The receivers all went berserk. 4 guys with at least 70 yards. 7 for 119 for TJ Moore. 5 for 108 and 3 for Antonio Williams. Tyler Brown with 10 for 102 and then a 74-yarder for Troy Stellato. This team is a wagon. They are steamrolling teams in the ACC left and right with blowouts after blowout over the last 6 weeks. And prior to that, 3 consecutive wins against playoff teams, and before that, a challenging non-conference schedule. It's honestly a miracle that we kept them to 5 on their home turf. That loss ages better and better by the day. The fact that we nearly won this game is actually crazy to think about. Next up, the SEC title game. Texas A&M is a lock to make it in regardless of the result. But Alabama, if they win this game, they can steal a bid from an at-large team such as, say, Boston College. So if you're an Eagles fan, Giga Maggies. Ultimately, this ended up being a really exciting game, but Texas A&M, unlike last year in the SEC Championship, would get the job done. They will be the number 3 seed in the playoff. Close win here, 35-31 over Alabama. The ride is over through the Crimson Tide. Much like last year, these guys played well down the stretch, but the season starts before week 6, guys. As for Texas A&M, last year they were not playing very well going into the playoff, ended up losing in the first round to Ohio State. But this year, it feels different. Connor Wegman is playing the best ball of his career. The run game continues to produce. The defense has been strong with all the future NFL players they have, including Nick Scorton, who had 2 sacks. And I'm going to go out on a limb. Even though they'll be without Noah Thomas, the projected first-round wide receiver, Texas A&M right now is my pick to win the national title. I get this is a team who constantly loses in big games, but there's something different in the water this year in College Station. I decided to save the Sun Belt and the Big 12 for last. Who will be that 5th and final conference champion to make it in the playoff? Texas State's going to have to take care of business first here against Coastal Carolina, and they would, winning this game 35-25. So now the question is, if Kansas State wins, do the Wildcats jump Texas State? The fact that Texas State dropped 2 spots in the rankings is probably not a very good sign for them, going from number 14 to number 16, despite the win. So this makes me think if the Wildcats do win this game, there's a good chance they jump Texas State for that final conference championship playoff spot. Let's see what happens in the Big 12 title game. A potential Heisman moment on the way for Avery Johnson. And sure enough, as you can see on this run, he would deliver. Johnson with a rushing score looking to strike the pose, but the defender is having none of it. No Heisman pose for Avery Johnson, says the linebacker. But the result of the game does not change. 24-10, Kansas State gets the win. And the Wildcats will make the playoff after all that. They will be the number 12 seed. They'll be the 5th conference champion. And Texas State is out. So a Big 12 team will be in the playoff this year, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. On one hand, I don't want to see Kansas State do well because they're a rival, and I'm petty. And them making the playoff helps them in the long term. It helps their recruiting. But it would also be a really bad look if the Big 12 sent nobody into the playoff. And if we want any chance of convincing schools like Clemson and Florida State to join our conference, being a no-show in the playoff would not be a good look. So these are the results of all the conference championship games, and now it's time for the moment of truth. I know I've hinted at some of the results already at the bracket, but here we go. The 2026 college football playoff bracket will look like this. Clemson, Michigan, A&M, and Oregon State will get first-round byes, while our first-round matchups will be Kansas State versus Oregon, Texas versus Florida State, Boston College versus USC, and SMU against Ohio State. We're going to watch the entirety of the college football playoff in the next episode, going through these games more in depth. But some things I want to touch on. I think the committee got most of these teams right. My first complaint, though, is Oregon State getting a bye. I feel like the easiest solution to the Kansas State and Texas State debate would be having both of those teams in, because Oregon State didn't even have to play in a conference title game. And then the other team who really doesn't belong here is SMU. I really don't know how they got here with 4 losses in the ACC, which is something else I found interesting. The ACC got 4 teams with Boston College, Florida State, and Clemson. The Big Ten got 4 teams with USC, Michigan, Ohio State, and Oregon. And the SEC only got 2 with Texas and Texas A&M. I wonder how the SEC feels about this. It's kind of funny seeing their conference fail, though, since, well, they're the loudest. Looking ahead at the bracket here, there are some really interesting storylines in potential future matchups. I think the winner of the Oregon and Kansas State game has a really nice pathway to the semifinals. If Oregon ends up winning that game, they get to play against their rivals, Oregon State, which would be kind of funny. That's not the only potential rivalry game that we could be looking at here, though. If Florida State beats Texas, that's going to be a really good game in Austin. But if FSU does win that game, they'll get to rematch Clemson, who they lost to earlier in the season. And I think Clemson got completely screwed by this draw. They're the number 1 seed, yet they're going to have to see either Texas or Florida State. I'm really intrigued by the quadrant with Boston College, USC, and then Texas A&M. I think anybody can make it out of that group. And then at the bottom, I don't think SMU really belongs here. If Ohio State wins that game, look who they're playing against in the second round. It's Michigan. The Wolverines have won the game 5 years in a row now. But if the Buckeyes were to beat them in the playoff, then all of Ryan Day's sins would be forgiven. Let's talk about some awards, starting with the Heisman Trophy winner, and it is Avery Johnson. The quarterback of Kansas State led the Wildcats to an 11-2 record. Mind you, we were 1-2. As he takes it home over Cade Klubnik, the USC duo, and then TJ Moore of Clemson, who ends up in 5th place. So Avery Johnson wins the award. I don't like seeing our rivals do well, again, because I'm petty. I thought Jalen Daniels last year was a little better than Avery Johnson was this year, so just some food for thought there. And then if you're curious at the players of the week in each conference for the conference title games, here you are. Avion Terrell wins the National Defensive Player of the Week. I think he's going to be a top 5 or 10 pick this year, the corner out of Clemson. While Tyson Mobley, wide receiver out of Liberty, wins it on the offensive side of the ball. So there are, of course, All-Americans and the other awards here. I think we're going to dive deeper into those once we get to the offseason. But obviously, I do want to look at the bowl matchups. Who are we playing against in our bowl game? We are headed to Memphis, the AutoZone Liberty Bowl against the University of Texas San Antonio. The Roadrunners will be our matchup, so the projection that we were given at the end of the regular season will ultimately hold up. This game will be on New Year's Eve at 6:45, so we're getting an evening game. Pretty much all of our games this year have been during the daytime, other than the Oklahoma State matchup, so that's kind of fun. UTSA is a fascinating team. I think that's the best way to put it. As we go over what they've done throughout the season in just a few minutes, they are maybe the strangest team I've ever come across. But before we talk about them, let's go over the early National Signing Day, a huge piece on the calendar in terms of recruiting. First, we've got to simulate here and see who our new commits are going to be. We'll start with four-star center Benji Trahan from Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Cheyenne East High School. Trahan is a guy who we've had on the board throughout the entire season. He's a fringe top 150 prospect and someone who I think is going to give us some great depth in the interior of the offensive line and could be a starter one day, but he's not alone. Terrell Butts from Oklahoma City and Dell City High School. Butts is a top 50 player nationally, the number 1 ranked center in this year's high school class, and our 3rd highest ranked commit on the entire board. Clay Latruce, a 3-star JUCO defensive tackle from Lackawanna College in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Some future NFL players have gone to Lackawanna before joining a regular college, including Jaquan Brisker, Jair Brown, Kevin White, and Kaiser White. Can Clay Latruce be the next on the list? Sam Woollyhand, an offensive tackle from Indianapolis, Indiana, and Franklin Central High School. He's a fringe top 700 prospect, but he is a gem, a guy who I think could be quite good down the line. And then middle linebacker Soma Satele from Spring Valley, California, and Helix Charter High School, the alma mater of multiple big names, including Reggie Bush, Alex Smith, and Bill Walton. Every player we have gotten to commit this year has been ranked in the top 1,000 nationally in this year's high school class, with the exception of Soma Satele. But don't get it twisted, this kid can ball. And recruiting rankings are just a ranking, after all. If we look at our Season 1 recruiting class, the lowest ranked player to sign with us was Clyde Poole, who obviously ended up being pretty good. He was our most impactful freshman in our class, despite being the lowest ranked freshman. So we get 5 players to commit here at early National Signing Day, but this might not be it for the fireworks because it's flip season, and we're going to find out if any previously committed players will be flipping schools, and this could be good or bad for us. I've kept a few players who have committed to other schools on the board in the case that they were to flip to us, but there are also some guys on our board who we have gotten to commit who could end up flipping elsewhere. 5-star corner Quantavius Landers and 4-star running back Reed Sharp are the 2 highest ranked players on the board. Both of them had the championship contender deal breaker, and that's been hovering right around a B- throughout the entire season. So I think there's a chance that either one of those guys might end up flipping somewhere. As you saw there, we have a few other job offers, but we are not going to entertain those. I am happily the head coach at the University of Kansas. That will not be changing. I might not be happy, though, if Landers or Sharp end up flipping schools. So let's hope for good news. So far, so good. And as you can see here, we would get some big news with the 2 quarterbacks. Sean Pollard and Kerry Chosen both have officially signed. Reed Sharp has officially signed, as has Quantavius Landers. Ultimately, nobody who ended up committing to us will be flipping to another school. They have all signed the dotted line. They will all officially be coming to Kansas next year. Of the 5 players who committed to other schools, none of them flipped either. So no fireworks for us, good or bad, in terms of flipping. But we could get some fireworks in terms of the development traits, which we now get to look at since we've made it to signing day. So here we go. Let's look at all of these players' development traits. Sam Woollyhand has star, as does Soma Satele. Just because he's the lowest ranked player here does not mean he's going to be bad. Sean Pollard, the 4-star quarterback, has star, as does the other 4-star QB, Kerry Chosen. That's a big deal, and with how talented both of these guys are, there's a real shot that either one of them could develop into a great player. We would get some more good luck with linebacker Santiago Herrera. He has star. Running back Cornell Teamer has star. Running back, Reed Sharp has star. Rajon Jones has impact. Quantavious Landers has impact, but I would suspect he's going to have a really high rating. Amani Law has impact. I was hoping for a good development trait with him. Not that impact's bad. Reggie Chanel has impact. I was hoping for good news there, but we do get good news with Kenyon Denbo. He has star. No elites this year. Remember, last year we only had one with Seth Jennings. And then in terms of these guys, they all have impact other than Josh Lawton, who has star. Really wish we could have got Lawton, but yeah, that battle ended a while ago. I did some looking across the rest of the country. I did some simulating into the future, and I saw that Enrique Rambo has elite. So yeah, we might have missed out on something here. I'm still really excited about the quarterbacks we got, Pollard and Chosen. I think either one of them could become our team's long-term starting quarterback. But Enrique Rambo having elite does make me a little bit salty because I did not think that was going to happen. We do have the number 4 recruiting class, though, and going into the year, I said that when we look back at the end of this series, this will be the most important recruiting class, being that we have more resources after making the national championship. And the fact that we have a top 4 recruiting class currently suggests that this team is hopefully in store for big things. Now let's talk about our bowl game against UTSA. Of course, we won multiple bowl games last year en route to making the national title game, winning both the Rose Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. Again, we won't quite win as many this year, but we're hoping to win the Liberty Bowl against UTSA. And as I said a few minutes ago, this team is fascinating. They gave themselves a really hard non-conference schedule, and they performed pretty well. But if we look at the results game by game, none of it makes sense. Week 1, they head to College Station to face off against Texas A&M, who I predicted a few minutes ago would win the national title. UTSA won that game. Then against Texas State, 12-1. Really competitive matchup. UTSA barely loses. Week 3, they lose to an FCS opponent. And then they beat the MAC champion Akron Zips in Week 4. So let's get this straight. They beat Texas A&M, who I think might be the best team in the country, on the road, and then lost to an FCS opponent at home 2 weeks later. This sport is something else, man. Their in-conference schedule was pretty easy. They really didn't face off against many of the good teams across the American. A big reason why they went 6-2. I would make the argument that their 3 toughest opponents were all in the non-conference slate. Maybe 4, given how well the FCS opponent fared against these guys. They've got a few really talented players at the top, some guys who I think could make it to the NFL. Denver Harris, a former 5-star recruit. He's played at multiple schools, and he's shown flashes, but character concerns are a big reason why he's kind of flamed out a little bit. Running back, Kavorian Barnes, a projected fringe top 100 pick in this year's draft class. We talked about him a little bit in the Broncos franchise. He's having a ridiculous year, 1,100 yards, 7.5 yards per carry. And then they got some good players on the defensive line. Ronald Triplett's a guy who's in this year's draft class. At quarterback, Owen McCown, the son of Josh. The lefty's been solid over the last 2 seasons as the starter for UTSA, but this definitely is a run-first team with Kavorian Barnes being the head of the dragon for this offense, if you will. They've got some good running backs with him, including Rocco Griffin, and a fun receiving core led by Devin McEwen. They'll be without 2 of their top 4 receivers, though. No Willie McCoy, no David Amador II, so they're going to need some of these other guys to step up, including Jace Wilson, the younger brother of Jalen Wilson, the former national champion basketball player at the University of Kansas. How cool is that? Jalen Wilson, obviously a legend in Lawrence, and a big reason why the Jayhawks won the 2022 national championship. His younger brother, Jace Wilson, is a wide receiver for this team. Defensively, I really like this roster. They're pretty talented on all 3 levels, have multiple NFL prospects on the defensive line, pretty good linebacking core, and then a talented secondary. Should prove to be a fun game. UTSA has shown that they can beat anybody. They beat Texas A&M in College Station, but they can also lose to anybody, losing to an FCS opponent at home just 2 weeks later. And I thought we really played to the level of our competition. UTSA takes it to a whole nother level. So since I cannot get a read on this team at all, I have no clue what to expect for this game. So all I can say is buckle up. It should be a good one. We'll start with the Kansas offense and freshman quarterback Clyde Poole, and this feels kind of like an audition for Poole. I don't think his job is in major jeopardy going into next year, but with Sean Pullard and Kerry Chosen coming to campus, he's going to have to play well going forward to keep his starting job. Whoop! Nice move here by Savion Morrison on 2nd and 3 as he gets around 26 yards. Morrison, the senior running back, one of many key players on this roster playing their final games for the University of Kansas. Pass midfield, RPO screen for another senior, Joseph Manjack with a juke move as Manjack brings it to the 30. I'm going to miss the duo of him and Mudia Rubin out wide. Both of those guys coming in through the transfer portal really improved as this season went along. Up the middle, 3rd down for the senior Daniel Highshaw. He's able to fight his way forward for a 1st down. Now a 2nd and 10, play action. Poole goes short for the true freshman Isaiah Lamore, and he gets it inside the 10. With changes at running back, wide receiver, and who knows, maybe quarterback, Lamore at tight end feels like one of the only stable positions on this team. As that ball's out, it's a fumble, and it's picked up by the defense. Owen Pee-wee recovers it. It looks like Morrison's going to try to chase him. 15-10, wrapped up all the way at around the 4. UTSA's defense gets the turnover, and they take it the entire length of the field. James Wally Jr. with the strip sack, and Owen Pee-wee with a fumble recovery going 80 yards. What a play for UTSA. We had the ball in the red zone, and with a snap of the finger, they get the ball at the 4-yard line. A costly turnover from freshman quarterback Clyde Poole. First play of the drive is the only play of the drive. McCoon is in for a touchdown from Owen McCown. And the Roadrunners strike first. The turnover leads to a touchdown. It's 7-0. I thought we moved the ball really well on that first drive, but obviously it came crashing down. Clyde Poole's got to do a better job of taking care of the football. Here's Morrison breaking tackles. What a start for Savion Morrison. 4 carries, already 54 yards here in the first quarter. 3rd and 4 now. Poole calls an audible at the line of scrimmage as it's going to be a delayed handoff. RPO. It's Manjack again, and he will get the 1st down. Manjack's made some really nice plays on those short RPO passes throughout the season. 1st and 10, play action. Poole scrambles to the left. Wants it all. He is intercepted. James Wally Jr., who had the strip sack on the last possession, is the one with the interception. Clyde Poole has now turned it over twice here in the first quarter, and this is part of the reason why, with Sean Pullard and Kerry Chosen coming to campus, that at some point we would entertain either one of those guys becoming a starter at some point. As good as Clyde Poole is in certain aspects of his game, he's the best play-extending quarterback I've ever seen. The turnovers and the costly plays really hurt with him as well. So UTSA gets it back, hoping for an actual drive as McCown gets the 1st down on the read option. 2nd and 7, it'll be play action, and McCown is sacked. The true freshman Seth Jennings leads the way, and he's joined by some friends. Half a sack for Jennings, Dekias Brinkley, and Dylan Brooks. And that'll make it a 3rd down and 14. Jennings has really turned into a player for us here in the second half of the year. Under pressure, McCown sacked again. Dylan Brooks is there to bring him down, joined by Travion Ford. A couple of sacks on this drive for Kansas. The senior Brooks in on both of them as the Jayhawks get it back on offense. Here is Poole scrambling to the left side, looking to run with it as he is out of bounds for a 1st down run, getting around 20. And again, that's the positives that Clyde Poole brings to the table. He is so good as a scrambler. It's going to be a loss of a yard for Thompson there on 1st down. Now a 2nd and 11. Poole looks to throw it. Rolls out to the right now. Under pressure, hoping somebody gets open. Instead, he finds the open space and runs for the 1st down, and then that'll wrap up the first quarter. It's been a weird game so far. UTSA has had 5 offensive plays. They have 10 offensive yards. Yet they're winning. 7-0 off of the 2 turnovers, specifically the strip sack forced by Wally and recovered by Pee-wee for a gain of around 80 yards, leading to a touchdown. But the offense appears to be moving it here as Poole scrambles again. Another 1st down run for Clyde Poole, who seems a little bit gun-shy throwing the ball off of the interception, so he's looking to run it more. This time it's coming back, though, a holding call against the senior Bryce Foster a projected top 50 pick in this year's draft. Third down now, back near the original line of scrimmage. That one is caught for a first down. Joseph Manjack hauls it in. And then here at the goal line, Savion Morrison runs to the outside. He's in. Kansas ties it up. Savion Morrison, the senior, who's had a really solid season for us. A projected 5th-round pick right now. In for a touchdown. This game is tied at 7. The offense needed to get some points after failing to do so on the first 2 drives, as UTSA has it back. Let's see if they can actually run a few plays on this possession. Kavorian Barnes up the middle, gets the first down, wrapped up by the senior tandem at safety. Devin Dye, who's been a stalwart for this defense over the last 2 years, along with Javon McIntyre, the transfer from Pitt. On second down, Barnes loses a couple of yards. I think that was Dekias Brinkley who brought him down. He's off to a good start today. 3rd and 11, this one is broken up. Basil Wilson got a hand on it as the receiver, Devin McCoon, who had the touchdown earlier, could not make the play. Kansas back with it on offense, looking to take their first lead of the game. On first down at the 41, looks like it'll be a fake jet sweep, and Thompson is thrown down for a loss of 3. Savion Morrison's off to a great start today, not so much for Thompson. 2nd and 13, play action, on the run, wide open, all the girls go ham for Jaden Ham as the backup tight end gets 33 yards. I've been waiting to use that line the entire season, but he hasn't made a big play until now. Big play for Jaden Ham as it's another RPO. Whoop! Ankles gone! Joseph Manjack, what a play! He's in for a touchdown, and the Jayhawks take the lead. Manjack has been an end zone magnet over these last few games, as Kansas is ahead now 14-7. That is his 8th score of the season, pretty much all of whom have come within the past probably 5 or 6 games. What a play here after the catch. Poor defensive back. I mean, Joseph Manjack just snatched that guy's poor soul. So the Jayhawks are ahead 14-7 after the receiving touchdown by Joseph Manjack. As on second down, it's intercepted. Avante Dickerson picks it off, his 2nd of the year, and things are trending south very quickly for UTSA. It's been a real up and down season for the transfer from Utah State, Avante Dickerson. We've seen the ups, we've seen the downs, but this is one of his most impressive plays of the year, jumping the route to perfection, making a great play there on the football. Obviously, there's a high standard we have at the cornerback position after watching Kobe Bryant and Mello Dotson last year, and Dickerson's not that caliber of player, but he's given us some good moments, such as that one. Savion Morrison brings the boom as he brings it into the 5. 8 carries, 82 yards already. His career high coming into the day is 83. Here's Clyde Poole on the option, outruns everybody, walks it in for another rushing touchdown. What an impressive season it has been on the ground for Clyde Poole. Over 1,000 yards rushing for the freshman quarterback. And again, he's the best runner at this position in America. Another big strength of his is he's in for rushing touchdown number 10. Barnes on second down loses yardage. I think that was DJ Withers who brought him down. This defensive line has been ferocious so far, and it's now 3rd and 5. McCown up the middle. It's caught, but not for a first down. Quick tackle there made by the defense as Kansas gets it back, looking to add to the lead even further. The Jayhawks have been dominant in the second quarter. Here is Thompson to the outside. He loses a couple of yards. Johnny Thompson has been a total non-factor. The difference between him and Morrison in this game has been very noticeable. 3rd and 5. Poole under pressure. Hit as he throws incomplete. And the Roadrunners force their first punt of the entire game. Got a chance to make it a one-score game late here in the second quarter. Here's McCown up the middle with a strike. That one is hauled in by the All-American running back Kavorian Barnes, who brings it near midfield. Following play, McCown looks to throw it under pressure, and he is sacked. Good job there by Damani Maxson as the spy to quickly enter the backfield. Had some help with friends to bring him down. 2nd and 10. McCown under more pressure. Hit as he throws. That's Jennings. Forces the incompletion. And again, we've got to talk about Seth Jennings. In the first 6 games of the year, he had 0 tackles. Total non-factor. Over the last 6 games, he's been awesome. Jennings again with the pressure. forces the incompletion. The difference is that we kicked him inside. He profiles as an edge rusher, but he's played way better as a defensive tackle. I want him to be an edge rusher, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Here's Poole on the scramble out of bounds for another first down run, as Kansas has a chance to make it a 3-score lead before half. 2nd and 10, Poole running around again, breaks the tackle, and he doesn't get much there. UTSA calls the timeout. They think they can get the stop here. 3rd and 9 after a gain of 1 for Clyde Poole. Calls an audible at the line of scrimmage, looks to throw it, has wide open room to run with it. You cannot give Clyde Poole space. He will make you pay. That'll go for a first down. Past the 40 now. Poole looking downfield, wide open. The true freshman, Sheldon Brink, to the 35-yard line. Brink was supposed to be redshirted, but due to an error made in the last game, he's no longer redshirt eligible, so we figured we might as well play him here as he makes another nice grab to bring Kansas into the red zone. Man-jack, open, not quite a first down. We're going to have to use a timeout, and we've got to be smart here with the clock. 28 seconds, 1 timeout. It's 3rd and inches. Morrison up the middle, does not get it. We're going to call the timeout now, and we've got a tough decision to make. 4th and 1. When you're this close, punch the sucker in. Direct snap. Morrison gets the first down. That's the same play we used on the 2-point conversion to beat Kansas State. We've got to get back to the line quickly, though. 1st and goal. Man-jack, wide open. He is in for a touchdown. Joseph Man-jack continuing to live in the end zone. His 9th of the year, his 2nd of the game, and it's now 28-7. Man-jack now has scored 8 touchdowns since week 11 against Texas Tech. That's 8 scores in his last 6 games. Flag on the play here. UTSA was called for a holding to start the drive. They're called for another one. That's going to back them up at the 4. So now they can't even really run the ball. They're just going to have to take a knee. And that'll do it for the first half here in Memphis at the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Certainly a rocky start. We trailed 7-0 after the first quarter. But that second was domination on both sides of the ball, outscoring them 28-0. The offense started to catch fire. Sevion Morrison's been terrific in this game. 10 carries, 85 yards. Clyde Poole, rough first quarter. 2 turnovers. Looks a lot more like the Clyde Poole we all know and love. Responsible for 3 touchdowns in that quarter. Throwing 2 to Joseph Man-jack and running for another one. This play right here. The defense has also been fantastic. Keep in mind, UTSA's only touchdown, they started at the opposing 4-yard line. It wasn't a drive. It was one play. The defensive line has been terrific. They have not been able to run the ball, which is their calling card with an elite running back. And McCown has barely had any time to throw it. He's been under pressure all day. UTSA starts with it here in the 3rd. Another sack! Travion Ford, the transfer from Toledo, brings him down. I'm excited to have him back next year. I think we're continuing to really understand his skill set and figure out where he'll be best utilized. 2nd and 29. Here's Barnes, a big run. Kavorian Barnes gets UTSA back to the original line of scrimmage, and now they can actually talk about converting here. 3rd down and 10 at the 24-yard line. McCown looks to be dialing something up here at the line. Play action, looks to throw it under pressure. He is sacked again. Wrapped up on the play by Caleb Taylor, the senior defensive tackle, and UTSA is going to have to punt it again. Kansas gets it back, looking to add insult to injury as it's 3rd down and 4. Man-jack in motion, handoff for Thompson, and again, his rough day continues. 7 carries, 6 yards for Johnny Thompson, and we're going to go for it here on 4th and 7. Risky call here at the 50, but I want to end this game as quick as possible. I don't want these guys to hang around. Poole under pressure, has to throw it in the dirt. UTSA gets the stop. Unlike last drive, they're going to have great starting field position. This is their chance to strike. Read option. McCown, fumble! And it's picked up by the defense! Javon McIntyre, the senior safety, delivers the blow, and the other senior safety, Devin Dye, picks it up. The OG safety duo, Devin Dye and Marvin Grant, those guys really had chemistry with each other, and I feel like we've really begun to see that over the last 5 or 6 games with Dye and McIntyre. Kansas gets it right back. Poole on the option, going nowhere. He saw it coming pretty quickly. Ronald Triplett, projected as a 7th-round edge rusher. He's had a good game today. 3rd down, up the middle. That one is caught. Moody Rubin's been somewhat quiet, with Joseph Manjack stealing the love. Manjack, by the way, now has 8 catches for 77 yards. As Morrison gets a big run inside the 10, he's officially over 100 yards for the first time in his career, but not for long. It's a holding call on Bryce Foster, his 2nd penalty of the game. So now it's a 3rd and 17 for the Jayhawks. Poole looks to throw it, looking deep, and it's overthrown. Lamore had a little bit of space. Too much juice on that one, though. We're going to kick. 51-yarder for Anthony Escalante. It is centered. Perfect accuracy, but it's short. The distance was the problem, which has not been the case this year with Anthony Escalante. So the fact that he was short from 51 is a little bit discouraging. He's going to have a lot of work to do this offseason as it remains 28-7. UTSA back with it. They've got a 3rd down and 2 just past the 40. Play action. McCown under pressure on the run. Finally a nice play. It goes for a 1st down to Devontae Jeffries. 2nd and 8 under pressure. Sacked again. Dakayas Brinkley, the sophomore, is having his best game of the year, and it is now 3rd and long for UTSA. McCown and the Roadrunners need a big play, and they'll get one. As I mentioned, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly this year from Avante Dickerson. Gain of 32 yards for Jace Wilson. I've been waiting to call his name, of course, as I mentioned, the younger brother of Jalen Wilson, the 2022 national champion and 2023 All-American. McCown for the end zone, it's picked off. Basil Wilson with the interception, no relation to Jalen or Jace, as he breaks the tackle, still on his feet, and hurdles out of bounds at the 25-yard line. So the drive here for UTSA will not result in points. McCown picked off for a 2nd time this afternoon. I guess Jalen Wilson is going to be able to hold the bragging rights for this one, assuming his Jayhawks are able to hold on. And barring something crazy, that looks like it's going to be the case as we continue to fire on all cylinders. Manjack, another nice play on the RPO, his 9th reception of the game. Takes a hard hit, but is still able to get the 1st down. Following play, Poole up the middle, has Rubin, breaks the tackle, and Moody Rubin gets the 1st down. What a play after the catch, and that should wrap things up here in the 3rd quarter. No score change, 28-7, still the same score we had going into half, but it's still not a bad quarter for Kansas if you really think about it, because UTSA started with the ball in the 3rd quarter, and they weren't able to make a comeback with all that time. With only 10 minutes to go, it's not looking good here for the Roadrunners. Into the 4th quarter, Morrison loses a few yards. A nice tackle behind the line of scrimmage by Brown. 3rd and 11. Poole rolls out to the left side under pressure. Has plenty of rushing room. Here goes Poole. Jukes away from the defender. Still on his feet. And he's wrapped up inside the 20. 13 carries, 112 yards for Clyde Poole. A regular day in the office for the star freshman, as Kansas has it back in the red zone looking to add to the lead. 3rd and 1. Morrison does not get it. Brown again brings him down, and we're going to bring out the field goal unit. 29-yarder here for Anthony Escalante. The more reps we can get him in-game, the better. This kick is up. It is right down the middle, and the Jayhawks make it 31-24. So UTSA will get it back. 2nd and 7 here for the Roadrunners, down by 24 points. McCown looks to throw it. Under pressure, he is sacked yet again. Dylan Brooks, Travion Ford, and I think Seth Jennings were all there to bring him down. How many times has he been sacked today? Like 6 or 7? 3rd and 17 now. McCown looking. He takes a deep shot. It's broken up. Boink, boink, incomplete. Dickerson had about 3 chances to come down with the interception, and he's unable to. Avante Dickerson continues to be maybe the most frustrating player on the field. Here's Manjack in open space. He's gone! Joseph Manjack with an exclamation point on what has been a terrific senior season. 10 catches, 116 yards, and a hat trick. 3 touchdowns. His 10th receiving score of this season, and it's now 38-7. What a play there for Manjack, and that ends up being his final touchdown. Well, that's a pretty good way to go out. From there, I decided to bring all the seniors in the game on both sides of the ball. We couldn't do anything ceremoniously last year because, well, it was the national championship and the game went down to the wire. But since we're up by 31 points in a smaller bowl game, I figure we can. 3rd and inches, under pressure, sacked yet again. It's J.B. Brown, the senior linebacker, who brings him down, and with nothing to lose, UTSA will go for it here on 4th down and long. McCown looks to throw it, takes a deep shot. He's got it all, but it is broken up in the secondary by the senior Devin Dye. So you'll notice we don't have a senior quarterback. I would put Ben Easters in, and I'm going to later, but DeAndre Rainbolt is in the game. The true freshman, his first career pass is nearly intercepted. I want Ben Easters to finish out the game and take the final kneel down, but we have not gotten Rainbolt any snaps all year, so I figure, why not now? His first career completion goes to the senior receiver, Philippe Wesley. It's a gain of 23 yards. Rainbolt is kind of the odd man out, I feel like, with Poole and the 2 quarterbacks coming in through the recruiting class this year, as Manjack gets a few yards here, but this one is potentially coming back, although they might just decline it. A holding on Dre Dorian. We have 5 senior offensive linemen on the roster. 4 of them are regular starters, and then Dorian is the only one who had to bring into this game, replacing the sophomore James Livingston. So we're going to kick a field goal. We're not going to bring out Owen Piper-Gerdes. Instead, it's Anthony Escalante. His kick is good, and the Jayhawks add to the lead. It's 41-7. UTSA has it back, potentially their last drive of the game and the last chance on the field for these senior defensive players. Got to end off strong, right? Well, I guess that's not really how you do it, but a big hit by Dye. Devin Dye had a lot of big hits throughout his collegiate career, including that one. 3rd and 3. Again, McCown wants it all. It is caught, but out of bounds. McCoon had it, but he didn't get the feed in as Ben Easters takes the final kneel down, and Kansas wins the Liberty Bowl 41-7. A big win here for the Jayhawks and a great way to end the season, wrapping up year number 2 with a record of 8-5. The first quarter of this game did not go well with the 2 turnovers, but Clyde Poole played a lot better as this one went along. We outscored these guys 28-0 in the second quarter, and then from there we took a comfortable lead into the 4th quarter. We were able to let all the seniors get on the field during the last 5 minutes of the game. Again, something we couldn't do last year since our final game, well, there was a lot more on the line than there was today. But still, a good win, giving our team a momentum boost going into the offseason and then season number 3. As we take a look at the numbers here, pure domination on both sides of the ball. We outgained them by nearly 400 yards. This game was a blowout in all ways of the word. Clyde Poole, 22 of 33, efficient through the air, made some big throws. Had the interception early, but outside of the first quarter, he was fantastic in this game. This was his first game all year against a non-power school, keep in mind. Ran for 115 yards on the ground, and then Savion Morrison did get 100, the first 100-yard game of his career. And I think we finally answered the question of who's better between him and Johnny Thompson. It took the entire season, but I think we have our answer. Hopefully, Thompson plays better going into next year, as he's expected to be our lead runner. Joseph Manjack, 11 catches, 114 yards, and 3 touchdowns. What a finale for the transfer from Houston. Moody Rubin played pretty well, too, in his final collegiate game. The offensive line was fantastic. The opposite of our final game last year, and then the defense was outstanding, particularly the front 4. Look at all the TFLs. Ford, Brooks, Brinkley, Jennings, all of these guys making plays. Ford had 2 sacks, Brooks had 2, Brinkley had 1.5. Dekias Brinkley in particular I do want to touch on because obviously he had the great freshman year. This season, he didn't really live up to expectations, but he had a great game today, and I'm hoping he'll be able to carry that into next year. Owen McCown only completed 50% of his passes. He definitely was not great. They should have used Kavorian Barnes more. He's their best player. How is he only getting the ball 12 times? Jace Wilson does lead the team in the receiving. That's pretty cool. Got to shout out the family ties. And then their defense was not good. Other than Ronald Triplett and Brandon Brown. Triplett, a potential draftable prospect. Brown, more than undrafted guy. But both of them were really good, combining for 8 TFLs in this game. So the Liberty Bowl winner, maybe not as exciting as a Rose Bowl or a Cotton Bowl. But again, we'll gladly take it. And here's a final look at these stats here for the entirety of the season. And again, we'll go into greater detail about these numbers in the offseason, but I figured we can take a look now if we want. Certainly an interesting year for Clyde Poole. 10 touchdowns on the ground, 20 through the air, but he also turned the ball over 18 times with 8 interceptions and 10 fumbles. So certainly a lot to build on going into year 2, but some questions to be answered as well. We're going to need a new lead running back. Our top 3 wide receivers are gone. 4 starting offensive linemen will be gone, and a very large chunk of the defense, including most of the secondary, a large amount of the linebacking core, and then our best defensive lineman with Dylan Brooks. So it's going to be very much an entirely new team next year. I would say well over half of our starters from this year are gone. But should be fun in the offseason, which will not be the next episode. That'll be in the following one, because next time we're going to be watching the college football playoff. All 11 of these games, crowning a national champion. Let me know who you think is going to win the national title down below in the comment section. Make sure to leave a like. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.